तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्।
जय गणेश पाहि मां श्री गणेश रक्ष मां।
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 जय गणेश जय गणेश जय 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 गणेश रक्ष मां।
लंबोदर गौरी सुत जय गणेश पाहि 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 मां।
मंगलकर संकट हर जय गणेश रक्ष 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 मां।
जय गणेश जय गणेश 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 जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश पाहि मां श्री गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश पाहि मां श्री गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश जय गणेश जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
लंबोदर गौरी सुत जय गणेश पाहि मां।
लंबोदर गौरी सुत जय गणेश पाहि मां।
मंगलकर संकट हर जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
मंगलकर संकट हर जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश जय गणेश 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 जय गणेश रक्ष मां।
जय गणेश पाहि मां श्री गणेश रक्ष मां।
गंगाधर हर गौरी शिवा। गंगाधर हर गौरी शिवा। गंगाधर हर गौरी शिवा। गंगाधर हर गौरी शिवा। शंभो शंकर सांब शिवा। शंभो शंकर सांब शिवा। शंभो शंकर सांब शिवा। शंभो शंकर सांब शिवा। गंगाधर हर गौरी शिवा। शङ्कर साई शिवा शम्भो शङ्कर साई शिवा गङ्गाधर हर गौरी शिवा गङ्गाधर हर गौरी शिवा शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब शिवा शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब शिवा जय जगदीश्वर जय परमेश्वर जय जगदीश्वर जय परमेश्वर शिरडी निवासा साईश्वरा शिरडी निवासा साईश्वरा पतिपुरीशा साईश्वरा पतिपुरीशा साईश्वरा जगदोद्धारा साईश्वरा जगदोद्धारा साईश्वरा शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब शिवा शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब शिवा शम्भो शङ्कर साई शिवा शम्भो शङ्कर साई शिवा गङ्गाधर हर गौरी शिवा शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब शिवा
रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा अहल्योद्धारक सुगुणाभिरामा अहल्योद्धारक सुगुणाभिरामा अहल्योद्धारक सुगुणाभिरामा अहल्योद्धारक सुगुणाभिरामा रावण संहार कोदण्ड रामा रावण संहार कोदण्ड रामा रावण संहार कोदण्ड रामा अयोध्य रामा पट्टाभिरामा अयोध्य रामा पट्टाभिरामा अयोध्य रामा सत्य साई रामा अयोध्य रामा सत्य साई रामा नव नव कोमल श्री 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 साई रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा रामचन्द्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा सीतापते जय जानकी रामा अहल्योद्धारक सुगुणाभिरामा अहल्योद्धारक सुगुणाभिरामा रावण संहार कोदण्ड रामा रावण संहार कोदण्ड रामा कोदण्ड रामा अयोध्य रामा पट्टाभिरामा अयोध्य रामा पट्टाभिरामा पट्टाभिरामा रामचंद्र प्रभु रघुवंश नामा।
बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय। बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय। बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय। झूठ छटा में गंगाधारी, झूठ छटा में गंगाधारी। त्रिशूलधारी ढमर बजावे, त्रिशूलधारी ढमर बजावे। डम 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 डमरू बजा, डम 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 डमरू बजा, डम 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 डमरू बजा, डम 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 डमरू बजा। गूंज उठा ओम नमः शिवाय, गूंज उठा ओम नमः शिवाय। बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम नमः शिवाय। बोलो बोलो सब मिल बोलो ओम नमः शिवाय। झूठ जटा में गंगाधारी, त्रिशूलधारी ढमर बजावे। ओम डम 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 डमरू बजा, गूंज उठा ओम नमः शिवाय। ओम नमः शिवाय, ओम
రామ కళ్యాణ రామ రాఘవ రామ పట్టాభి రామ రామ కళ్యాణ రామ రాఘవ నీకొక్క మాట రామ నాకొక్క మూట రామ రామ నీ పాటే పాట రామ నీ పాటే పాట రామ నీ పాటే రామ నీకెవరు చూడు రామ శ్రీకంఠ చూడు రామ నీవు నీవాడు రామ నాతో మాట్లాడు రామ నేను నీవాడు రామ నాతో మాట్లాడు రామ నేను నీవాడు రామ నాతో మాట్లాడు రామ నామమే మేలు రామ చింతనే చాలు రామ చింతనే చాలు రామ నామమే మేలు రామ చింతనే చాలు నీ నామమే మేలు నీ చింతనే చాలు రామనామమే మేలు రామ చింతనే చాలు నీ నామమే మేలు నీ చింతనే చాలు రామనామమే మేలు రామ చింతనే చాలు రామనామమే మేలు రామ చింతనే చాలు రామ నేను నీవాడు రామ నాతో మాట్లాడు రామ నేను నీవాడు రామ నాతో మాట్లాడు
The first 16 years of my life, as you have seen, consisted of Bala Leelas, divine sport. And then the next 16 years, as you are experiencing now, consists of Mahimas, miracles and manifestations. Swami said, these Leelas and Mahimas, miracles and manifestations will give you Santosha. Santosha is short-lived. You have to catch this and convert into Ananda. Chira Sukhadaini Sai Janani. To help us convert this Santosha into Ananda, on the 32nd year, Bhagwan started his Upadesha, and that is how, as Sanjay Sani sir mentioned, Bhagwan started the Sanatana Sarathi. Is it any surprise that the very first issue of Sanatana Sarathi carried Prema Vahini? 1982, Bhagwan once returned to the mandir after taking a tour of the construction activities, and there was Professor Kasturi with Swami. As Swami alighted from the car, there were 3 elders. All of them were Murtis. Their surname was Murtis, and Swami called them to go inside the interview room. And as they were entering the interview room, Professor Kasturi also sneaked behind them. And Swami saw that and Swami stopped him. Hey, Kasturi, how are you going inside? See, all of them are Murtis. Krishnamurti, Satyamurti, another Murti. And Swami said, Nenu kuda one Murti. I am also a Murti. But you are Kasturi. And Swami said, Kasturi sir said, Swami, Nenu vaste anni purti avutundi Swami. It will become complete. And Swami had a hearty laugh and says, okay, come in. One day, Professor Kasturi, used to always apply this broad vibhuti marks on his forehead. Swami said, hey, what is this bandage? And Professor Kasturi said, Swami, the bandage kadu Swami, this is the one which will take me out of bondage of this cycle of birth and death. When I was reading Prema Vahini, after reading 30 chapters of Prema Vahini where Swami is talking about Sahaja Manava, Sadhana Manava, the different types of sadhana, finally in the last chapter, Swami says, one of the greatest virtues of a spiritual seeker is to be truthful and joyful. When the postmaster of Hyderabad came to Prashanti Nilayam with a proposal to start a post office in this township, he said, all I need is a retired government pensioner. And when they looked around in the ashram, there was no one who could match that qualification except Professor Kasturi. Now, Professor Kasturi, as we know, he was an editor, author, translator, biographer. But then, he accepted the position to be the postmaster. Swami was watching this. And then Swami came to him and very mischievously, Swami smiled and said, Professor Kasturi, postmaster. It's not sounding nice, no? And Professor Kasturi said, Swami, I am not any postmaster. I am postmaster of Prashanti Nilayam. That was the enthusiasm of Professor Kasturi. When Swami had given him a room just beside the mandir, and one day in his 80s, he was just sitting in his room and playing with a bear doll. There was a waist tied to this doll, and the doll was, beating the drum. And as he was doing this, suddenly someone came from behind and hit, and the doll fell down. And he got up startled, and we looked behind, and he saw Swami there. And Swami said, hey, Kasturi, Chusava, that is what I am going to do to you. And Professor Kasturi looked at Swami, looked at the doll, that vanquished but very valiant doll which was still beating. He said, Swami, even if you do this to me, I will continue to beat the drum of your glory, your story, your mahima, just like that doll. To me, this is the crux of the Prema Vahini, which touched me deep. Swami says in the final chapter of Prema Vahini, if you are joyful, if you are enthusiastic, and if you are smiling, this is a greater sadhana than even karma and bhakti. One day, Professor Kasturi's daughter, Padma Kasturi, came to Professor Kasturi. Professor Kasturi had just returned from a lecture that he gave to foreigners. And the moment she saw her father, she went on a rampage. She said, Father, why do you go and give all these lectures to all these people? Swami cured this person, Swami has healed that person. Did you ever look at what is happening to your family? Your wife is paralyzed for 11 years. Your first son passed away when he was just a teenager. The other son got retired and came, and we thought he will live with us. He also passed away. You are 85. Your son passed away when he was 60. And look at me. My marriage is in doldrums. I have so many marital problems. What is the fun of you going and talking about Swami? And Professor Kasturi said, Padma, you can think whatever you want to think. That is your understanding. As far as I am concerned, when Swami cures that cobbler, Swami is doing something for me only. When Swami comes to the rescue of that farmer, Swami is healing me only. I have no feeling that Swami should do something for me, my family, my people. Swami is God. Whatever he does is the best thing that could have happened to my life. I feel happy people are Sai people. And Sai people do not have to do any other work other than what is mentioned in the organization. Do the seva, do the bhajans, do the study circles, but do it with enthusiasm, do it with joy, do it with smile. This, for me, is the precious pearl that I gathered from Prema Vahini.
So can we have the next question?
Sairam brother, we are all Sai devotees and we do lot of prayer. At times, many of us feel our prayers are not answered. Can you throw some light on that?
That's one question that all of us have, right? We have come to Swami. Swami is the Supreme Lord. I have problems, he has solutions. Why isn't he giving it to me? In Swami's Satyasai Vahini, there's a very beautiful chapter, which is chapter number 19, where Swami speaks about prayer. And Swami explains this whole concept with a couple of very attractive examples. Swami says, take the example of a farmer. The farmer has a lot of activities to do, to prepare the field, sow the seeds, harvesting. And Swami says the farmer can do all of these karmas perfectly, diligently and sincerely, but still the results are not guaranteed. There are always factors which are beyond his efforts. So what does he do? He starts prayer. He prays for rain. Then Swami says, imagine now, let's complicate the issue a little more. The farmer has a neighbor. The neighbor is having a festival celebration in his house, and he is praying to God, I've spent so much, I'm having a festival, please let there be no rain. So Swami says, whose prayer is going to be heeded by God? Then Swami gives another example. Swami says, imagine there's a king, and to the king, a subject comes and says, oh master, this is my problem. So what does the king do? Swami says, the king is supreme. The king is the lord of that realm. But what does he do? He has various departments. Tax department, medical department, family issues department. So based on what the plea is, the king will send you to that appropriate department and they will have a set of rules to follow. Swami says, after all, a worldly realm has to be ruled like this. Imagine the complications of ruling this entire universe. So when you come to God and with a prayer saying that I have this health issue, I have this problem, Swami says it will be directed to the appropriate deity. And based on all the rules which have been laid down, you will be judged whether you have done the things rightly and you deserve the solution that you are seeking. But Swami doesn't stop there. Swami says there are 3 kinds of prayers and activities and offerings that come straight to me. They don't go to any other department. They come straight to the Lord, and Swami says, Nishkama karma, action done without any desire, Niswartha prema, selfless love, and Nirmala hridaya prarthana. Swami says, if your prayer is made with these 3, or any one of these, I will not send it to any other department. It comes straight to me, and I have the authority to grant what you want. See, when Swami says Niswartha prema, it is love which does not have any conditions. There's a very beautiful episode in the Ramayana when Rama meets Sugriva for the first time, and Rama establishes his divine power. We'll not go into the whole detail. When Sugriva sees what an enormous being Lord Rama is, he falls at his feet and he says, Rama, I don't need my kingdom, I don't need my family. I have found the Lord. Please keep me in your service. I don't want anything else. Rama says, don't worry. I will still fight for you. I'll get you the kingdom. Then finally he goes, fights with Vali. First battle, washed out. He comes back completely battered. And he comes to Rama and says, Rama, I trusted you. What have you done to me? I trusted you and went for the fight, and see what has happened to me. Then Rama very lovingly caresses his wounds, and even as Rama touches those wounds, the wounds start healing. In the next moment, Sugriva says, oh Lord, you are the Lord, the Master Supreme. I don't want the kingdom, I don't want anything. Keep me at your service. And just short of saying, Swami says, and I think Swami Rama is not telling Sugriva, Swami is telling each one of us. Swami says, this is not devotion, this is emotion. When good things happen, when enormous miracles come to your consciousness, and then you think, oh Lord, He is the Supreme, I don't want anything else. And then when troubles come, when you start saying, Swami, what have you done? That is not devotion, Swami says. That is why Swami says, Niswartha Prema is what is the true devotion. I'll probably quickly end with a beautiful episode which one devotee was once sharing. Swami called them for an interview, and this person was sitting in that interview room. And for some reason, when Swami was giving a discourse, he became very, very hungry. He tried to concentrate on what Swami was saying, but the hunger was eating him from inside. It came to a point he couldn't hear one word what Swami was saying, and he said, Swami, when are you going to end? And Swami looked at him. I mean, he didn't say this, it was in his mind. Swami looked at him, didn't say anything, waved his hand, materialized a sweet, gave it to everybody, and looked at this gentleman and said, concentrate. So if you look at this interview, what was the purpose of the interview? Was it for Swami to materialize food and settle a physical craving? Swami's act of satisfying that person's hunger was so that the person can concentrate on something that is more important. So this is not to say that Swami will not solve our problems. This is not to say that if you have problems, don't ask Swami because Swami is here only for spiritual blessings. Swami will solve our physical problems so that our mind can be quietened and we can focus on what has to be focused on. And what has to be focused on? That's what we're talking about, Swami's message. So is there any more questions? We'll ask the brothers here.
Sairam brother, I have to make a confession today. So basically, I'm a very work-oriented person and I enjoy all the work-oriented, service-oriented activities that take place. There is a friend of mine who happens to be a singer and he immensely enjoys the bhajan sessions that take place. The problem here is none of us are that inclined towards reading such high-level philosophies. Isn't what we are already doing enough? My question to you is, what additional benefit do we get by reading the Vahinis?
So we have Arvind who will take on that question.
This is a very classic case, classic question of karma versus bhakti versus jnana. I'm doing my bhajans, I'm very happy in it. Why should I go for seva? And the seva people thinking those people simply keep sitting and discussing in study circles and doing bhajans. We are the ones who, I mean, this clash is there and it's inspiring a lot of answer. But since like Swami, I cannot materialize a sweet and keep you satisfied, I'll try to keep my answer short. And Swami himself answers this beautifully. Swami says, it's not like bhakti, karma and jnana are three separate things. They're all equal. There's no difference. In fact, I'll quote exactly from Swami's Prema Vahini. Swami says, I don't agree that dedicated action, karma, devotion, bhakti and spiritual wisdom, jnana are separate. I don't even like to classify one of these as first, second and third. I don't accept a mixture of all these three, even a merger of these three. Dedicated action is devotion. Devotion is spiritual wisdom. Swami says A equal to B equal to C. These three are equal. And even as we understand it theoretically and are finding it difficult to comprehend it, Swami comes with such a beautiful, unbelievably simple yet profound analogy. Swami says it's like a Mysore pak. A Mysore pak has weight, a Mysore pak has a shape, and Mysore pak has a taste. Each of them is absolutely unrelated to the other. What has the shape got to do with the taste? What has the weight got to do with the shape? Nothing. And yet Swami says, if you want to experience the Mysore pak, you cannot, I mean, Mysore pak, for those who are unaware, is a sweet, which I think they will show Swami holding it up. So, if you want to experience that Mysore pak, Swami says you will have to experience a change. When you put it in your mouth, the shape will change, the taste you will experience, the weight will also change. Automatically, all three will have to get influenced. So, if we feel that I am enjoying doing seva, but I don't want to read all these high funda things, then something is wrong. It is not possible. It is not possible to experience a Mysore Pak without all these three. So too, Swami says you cannot experience the ultimate without putting efforts in all the three directions. Because in the ultimate, all three become one. So it is our duty to put efforts. Of course, we'll have preferences. I may like bhajans. I may like to do seva. I may like to read Swami's discourse and discuss it. That's possibly our preference, but we should not give up the others. For instance, we consider Mirabai as a great proponent of bhakti. But does it mean she did not have jnana? There are letters that she corresponded with Goswami Tulsidas, filled with Advaita. Speak of Adi Shankaracharya, he is considered as the greatest exponent of Advaita. He is the exponent of Advaita, a jnani. And yet, he composed Bhajagovindam. He composed Mudakarata Modakam. Can we say he lacked bhakti? Can we say he didn't do karma? Before the age of 32, twice he walked the length and breadth of the country. So in short, Swami tells us that if we think we can experience the ultimate without putting efforts in all the three directions, karma, bhakti and jnana, we are deluded. It is not actual progress. As Brother Bishu put it, it's only santosha. Swami would say samtosha is samtosha only. We need ananda. For ananda, we need to put efforts for karma, for bhakti and for jnana. Then only we will know that we are actually progressing. Next question.
Sairam brother, I always wanted to know whether we are progressing spiritually and whether Vahinis help me in doing this. Thank you.
One day in Vrindavan, there was this senior devotee with Bhagwan. He was basking in Swami's proximity. Swami was giving him a lot of attention, and he suddenly had this doubt. How close am I to Swami? Am I progressing in my path of self-realization? And the moment he had the doubt, Swami looked at him and Swami did like this. And he did not understand. Swami said, give me. You're not giving me. He said, what, Swami? Give me your mind. You want a beautiful jewel to be made, but you're not allowing the goldsmith to cut, to burn. Forget doing this. You're not even giving the gold to the goldsmith. So he thought, okay, how do I give my mind to Swami? And as an inner inspiration, he started constantly only thinking about Swami. He did that for a few years. And then he thought, have I been successful in giving my mind to Swami? Again, that doubt came. How much have I achieved in this sadhana? And then in meditation, Bhagwan gave him this answer. The measure of your bhakti is the amount of shanti that you experience in your heart. And this is what Swami has mentioned in Prema Vahini. Swami says, when your mind is focused on Sarveshwara, when you see equal love in all and live in this atmosphere of peace and happiness, you are closer to God. Thairam.
Just one last question, brother. After all that we have learned today, we are very enthused to take up the study of Vahinis. How do you study the Vahinis?
I think that's the most important question, because we should not leave here by saying, oh, it was a nice presentation and then go back home. We should start the study of the Vahinis. When Swami writes the Gita Vahini, the very first or second line, Swami writes with what attitude the word of God has to be studied. And I think what Swami says there for Gita Vahini is appropriate even for whatever Swami has written. And there Swami gives 3 points.
The 3 points that Swami mentions are very, very critical when it comes to the study of Vahinis. He says, Pujya Bhavam, Bahya Parikshana, and Bahiranga Nirikshana. These are the 3 words that he used. What is the meaning? The first is the Pujya Bhavam, with a feeling of reverence, is how we should take up the reading of the Vahinis. The second is Bahya Nirikshana, which is a sense of patience, an attitude of patience is what is necessary. And third, he says Bahiranga Parikshana, which is the attitude of inquisitiveness.
When you look at the first quality that Swami speaks, Swami says when you start reading the book, there should be a sense of reverence. This is the word of God. There may be things that I do not grasp. There may be things that I am not able to relate to at this point, but this is the truth. And my understanding should be converging towards what Swami is saying. And that is what Swami means, I feel, when he says you should approach it with a puja bhavam.
Coming to the second, which is the word parikshana, the sense of patience. Swami, in one of the discourses, says that when a child, nirikshana, the attitude of patience. Swami, in one of the discourses, says that when a small child begins with only liquid diet, and when it has to slowly move to solid diet, it is not able to digest it. So what the mother does is it gives small little morsels of food which can start the digestion process. Swami says, take up the study of Vahini exactly like that. Don't suddenly feel that, oh, I'm inspired today. We go back after Swami's birthday celebration. I take up Upanishad Vahini or Jnana Vahini and it falls flat. It is the best medicine for insomnia. While if we can actually take up just one paragraph at a time, and little by little we are able to taste and we develop the ability to digest what Swami is saying, I think that is what is captured in the word nirikshana, which is be patient. You may not understand it. In fact, it may even make you feel a little bored when you start reading it, but continue doing it because at some point of time, the digestion process will start.
The third attribute that Swami speaks about is bahiranga parikshana. The word parikshana means to examine, to experiment. Sometimes when after Swami delivers a discourse, Swami would come and ask the elders and sometimes even students, how was the discourse? And we would say, Swami, discourse was very nice. Swami would say, I don't want your applause and praise. Swami wants it to be practiced. And when we say parikshana, that's what Swami means. Swami says, read little and try it out in your own life. There are 3 words in the Bhagavad Gita, Jnatum, Drashtum, Praveshtum. And Swami would say, this is the process of learning. Swami says, first is Jnatum. You first learn, you read, you gather the knowledge. The next Swami says is Drashtum, which literally means try it out. See if it works. And when you have the experience after you have tried it out, Swami says it becomes a part of you, praveshtum, it enters your being, Swami says. And that is the third thing that Swami says, bahiranga parikshana.
There's one beautiful quote here that I would like to make when it comes to study circles. Did you know that Swami has in fact given us exactly how to conduct a study circle? And that is something that I would like to read. Swami says, I am not for indiscriminate reading of books, however valuable they may be. Much reading confuses the mind. It fosters argumentation and intellectual pride. What I insist upon is putting things read into practice, at least a thing or two. So, can we take the ability to read, and when we read, we just don't do a passive reading, but we actually do an active reading. When we take a particular Vahini, can we make notes out of it? That is the difference between passive reading and active reading. Passive reading would be to take a book, and as we sleep, there are so many other problems that we've had in the day. We want to somehow let go of that, and so we take a Vahini and start reading. Swami would say, take a book and a pen and try to underline what are the most important words. Probably only one word may come in one reading of 15 or 20 minutes. But eventually, after a week of reading, a lot of clarifying, a lot of clarification comes to us. That is how we can do this reading. Those were some of the thoughts that we thought when it comes to how to read the Vahini. We all know, we have all heard about the most beautiful things about the Vahini, the amount of effort that Swami put in for us to read. He wrote for 26 years. Can we read for 26 days? That is the challenge that probably we can put to ourselves. That for a Lord who gave so much of his time, I'll request Brother Prem to end it on that particular note, that beautiful thought of what that Vahini means to us.
When you love someone, when you want to gift something to someone, I think all of us have been in that position. We would go out and buy something and give, maybe for a few ₹100 or whatever is the cost. But the true gift that one person can give another is the gift of time. If I give 5 minutes to a person I love, I have given 5 minutes of my life. And when we say Swami wrote these Vahinis for 26 long years, Swami has put 26 long years of his life into these Vahinis. And he has gifted that to us. Many, many times when we were students, all of a sudden an announcement will be made in the hostel. Swami is distributing clothes. Swami wants to give watches. This is the season, birthday season. Swami would definitely want to come early and start distributing something. And the moment that announcement is made, we would come running like horses all the way from the hostel. And here is Swami. He's holding out the Vahinis to us. He is giving. Will we be seated there and say, Swami, I am too tired to get up and come to you and receive this? When Swami is giving something, will we not be the first person there to receive it? This is the gift of Swami's own life. If not now, when will we outstretch our hands to receive this blessing?
For is it not he said, when he said, I have come to give you what you want so that one day you will want what I have come to give. What is it that Swami wanted to give? He has given us everything that we asked for. For once, on this occasion of the 94th birthday, let us ask Swami, Swami, what is it that you came to give us? Let us want that. And what he wanted to give us are these Vahinis, are his messages. As Professor Kasturi beautifully writes, this is not a book. The Vahini is not a book. The Vahini is a balm that we will apply to cool, to comfort, and to cure the maladies. Dear brothers and sisters and dear elders, respected elders, when we read the Vahini, we read Swami. When we think about the Vahini, we think Swami. When we embrace the Vahini, we embrace Swami. Thank you, Sai Ram.
Hare शांति शांति शांति। समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु। समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु। समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु। शांति शांति शांति। जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई